All right, welcome to the STR podcast, otherwise known as the Start the Rebuild podcast. I'm your co-host Tim Fournier, alongside Ian Mills.
What's up,
We
guys?
are
What's
kind of back.
huh?
We're kind of back, if you can
Kind of
count
back. Bit of a
being
rebrand, bit of
back
a
before. We're literally starting the rebuild.
we're rebuilding this podcast that has existed since 2019.
Yeah, I think so.
2020. It might be 2020.
I think spring of 2020. I think it was
Yeah,
literally during COVID is when we made the first
during
one.
COVID. Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, a little
Rebuild.
backstory. During
Yeah.
COVID, we just wanted to make a podcast. Big sports fans, so we kind of made it very sports centric. And we posted probably like over the last 4 years, maybe 10 podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah, there were certain when we first did it, we made like I think 10 off the bat, and then it kind of fell off. And then we did like three or four more. Like, yeah, we've just done like pockets
Sporadic.
in the course of the last 4 years. But yeah, that's all been it was all about sports, a lot about the NFL, pretty much almost entirely. We had a lot on the NFL draft
Yeah.
uh back in 2020. I remember Epinesa, the
Yeah.
Bill AJ Epinesa. I remember in one of our podcasts I said the Bills should draft him and they did, but in the second round, not in the first round. So
And I remember when we predicted the first like 6 picks correctly. That was pretty.
yes, Justin Herbert was the last pick I think we got right. It was Isaiah Simmons, I think might have been first pick we
Something
got
like
right.
that. And
Either
it
way.
wasn't even a predictive mock draft.
No.
It's like, yeah, this is what we would do. And
Yeah.
then we didn't like Herbert. So then we kind of failed on that.
Yeah. We did not like Justin Herbert. But either way, this is sort of we're kind of moving away from sports. We still both love sports. I work in sports, and so does Tim. And I think right now we're just here to just kind of continue our conversation in life, just about as we grow, out of college now at this point. So just trying to, get stuff on paper.
Yeah. I think it's a really good transition for us because we were talking right before this about how I don't know, sports podcast is really cool. It's one of our biggest interests, but it kind of made us narrow, and like we said, it kind of made it feel like something we had to get done rather than something we really wanted to do in the spur of the moment. So I think kind of just I don't even think you're going to be able to call us a specific podcast. Like we don't really know what it's going to turn into. We're just gonna talk about what we feel like talking about that day, and I think that's going to be more enjoyable for us too, but also create a better product.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
something we can kind of get into our week in review or anything like that, but one thing I wanted to start with that I wanted to ask you about and get your raw reaction, and then I have some takes. Um, I always see whenever there's a podcast clip on TikTok, Instagram Reels, anything like that, the first comment is like, dude, we should start a podcast. I want to get your take on people kind of crapping on that.
I mean, I guess I haven't seen that. I'm sure I believe you. I think what people like 5, 10 years ago, like, podcasts were a little more rare, right? Like it was a
Yeah.
bigger deal to make a podcast. But like now I see it as just like, like think about who you watch on YouTube. Like anyone can have a YouTube account, anyone can make, YouTube videos, and it's not a big deal. It's just sort of like, someone making content. And I think that's just what podcasts have turned into, is just like it's like it used to be a big deal. And I think we're in this day and age where people remember it being a big deal to make a podcast or start a podcast. And now it's sort of just like everyone listens to like 5 or 6 podcasts. Like, you know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
so many like it's just there's so much like availability out there. Like obviously we're at a point in day and age where the space is getting certainly crowded, but it's just because people listen to it. It's because
Right.
people actually pay attention to it. So it's like, yeah, I get it. I mean, we've done the whole, oh, bro, we should start a podcast thing for 4 years, and it's like I get it, and it is funny because it's like we've lived that, but at the same time, it's just like I don't know if it's an avenue for you to facilitate a conversation, even if it's just with a friend. You know what I mean? I think that's
Yeah.
valid.
I think I kind of see it from two sides. From the listener side, uh, if you take the time to leave a comment on that, I feel like that just means for a lot of people, it's probably they wish they had the, I don't know if confidence is the right word, to put themselves out there and post something, and they see someone say something stupid and they take the first chance to comment that. Honestly, I would be happy to see someone comment on ours and say, "Bro, we should start a podcast," because that means we have one comment.
Yeah.
I would literally be happy to see that.
No, I'd be very happy. Yeah, that made my
That means it's getting shown to someone, so I would be happy. Um, and then from the other side, from the creators side, I feel like there's people a lot of times will comment that when people just say something blatantly stupid and then clip it and post it on whatever platform, whatever. And I think saying something that's against the grain, if you actually believe in it, like you should like get it out there. You should say it. You should be confident in whatever your stance is that you're talking on if you truly believe in it. But I respect anyone out there for putting their opinion out there. But if you're saying something blatantly wrong just to get people to interact and get engagement, that's where I lose respect for it. And it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we see that. I mean, obviously, that's just like what sports, talk is. Sports TV is now is like with Stephen A. I mean, he's in Skip. They've sort of just been the poster child of that, not actually watching a game and then talking about it the next day. But I do think on the flip end, on the opposite end in sports, we sort of have this, we have this mentality of kind of group think. Like if someone agrees, if someone says something, everyone has to agree to it.
Yeah.
Two examples of that. Chris Sims,
I was gonna
obviously.
bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, like the whole his quarterback draft rankings. I think he had no, was it Drake May? He had Drake May like as like the sixth best quarterback in the draft. Now, I don't agree with that by any means, but I also get like in the was it the 2018 draft he had Lamar at one. You know what I mean? And Josh Allen at two, which is like nobody had that. So it's like
Right.
it's like I understand, like I'm not, you know what I mean? Like we just if someone actually validly dissents from the from the consensus, that's okay. Like I think that's okay,
Yeah,
and we should welcome that.
I agree.
Yeah, another example, it was Lamar's MVP this year. He got 49 first place votes, which is fine. I have no problem with that, right? I don't think he should have been MVP, but 49 first place votes, I get it. He, whatever, he's a valid MVP. Josh Allen got one, which is totally cool. But then, like, there was a whole Stephen A. was mad that Josh Allen got like Lamar wasn't unanimous. It was like if Lamar was unanimous, like there's a problem with the voting. Only
Yeah,
because not because he wasn't a deserving MVP, but because someone has to say, okay, he wasn't by far better. Like if you're unanimous, you're by far better than everyone else, and that just
yeah,
wasn't here. So I think in sports, yeah, we kind of have to toe that line where it's like people have opinions for hot takes, but also it's okay to dissent from the consensus.
yeah. Chris Sims is what I was gonna bring up too, because his rankings are always seem crazy, and I don't necessarily agree with them at all. But I love to see someone sticking their neck out for something they believe in, if that's what he's doing. Because he
Yeah.
gets a lot of engagement whenever he posts his rankings now. If he made Brian Thomas his wide receiver two over Marvin Harrison and stuff.
Yeah.
And like if you actually believe that, like congrats to you for getting that out there and backing it up, whatever you want to say to back that up. But if you're doing it literally just so your tweet gets a zillion retweets and comments and stuff, then I don't really respect that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. But yeah, I mean that's not just like that, that's not just a sports thing, obviously.
No.
You see it on Twitter a million times where like hot takes, people do like the whole like hot take, I actually like cheese. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like it's just like we almost get like milk, like milk toast takes. Yeah, I think sports just sort of embraces the yelling at each other debates, whereas like the rest of the world, not to say the rest of the world doesn't, but it's just like we've gotten to a point where you look on, Twitter and it's just like I feel like people really do just if you have a different opinion on anything, like what I mean. It's just sort of you get dunked on, so to speak.
Definitely. So that was something I wanted to bring up. I have a couple other topics if we wanted to run through that, but is there anything you want to bring up?
I mean, right now we can run through some of your topics. I honestly was thinking more the weekend review, but
You want
have
to do that
you?
then?
we can, yeah, we can do that. We can go from there.
Well, I feel
Uh,
like that's a good thing to start with each week.
yeah. So why don't we do that? So yeah,
Go for it.
big week for your guy
For
Ian,
Ian Mills,
for
big
Ian
news
Mills,
week.
for
Let's
me,
go
for Mubs. Um,
for Mubs.
I watched for Mubs. I watched Dune and Dune 2.
Dude,
Uh,
I watched
it's
I okay, sorry to cut you off, but
phenomenal.
I um traveled this weekend. I was on an airplane and I downloaded Dune, the first Dune,
Mhm.
to watch because I've heard so many great things about the second Dune. And I've even heard that Dune, the first Dune, isn't that good, but it completely sets everything up for Dune 2. I got through like 40 minutes and I was like, I would rather listen to music and try and fall asleep. And I had a 7 hour flight. Like I could not get behind it. I feel like they didn't like explain anything and it was just kind of confusing. And then it would just be like loud music that were suspenseful and it would lead to like nothing. And then I couldn't get into it.
I okay, so that's Dune 1. Dune 2 is significantly
Good.
better. I'll say that.
Okay.
Uh,
Maybe I'll give
Dune
it another try.
Dune 1 is worth watching just to watch Dune 2, but Dune 1 I thought was still a good movie. I agree with you that it really was like one of my buddies described it as like the whole purpose of it was to set up a sequel, which I mean is sort of true.
Upside.
I do think the movie stands on its own merit. Um, but I do think like when I was watching it, I watched it and because I work late night, so I'd watch like an hour each night. So I watched it over 3 separate nights.
Okay.
Um, just sort of regret. But my point is that like I don't know, maybe it was easier to digest that way. But they do explain a lot. The first 40 minutes of the movie can sort of be a little bit confusing, but they do go on to explain a lot. But once you get through that, Dune 2 it's so good. It
Yeah.
is a phenomenal movie. I won't spoil it obviously because it just came out, but I watched it with my buddy Koosh. We went to 9 p.m. Didn't get out till like 1 a.m. But yeah, that is not the big thing in my life that happened this week. But I did want to mention it. Great movie, phenomenal movie. But this week I finished probably the biggest, not probably, definitely the biggest project in my life so far. Um, it's a 25-minute documentary on the Binghamton High School basketball teams. Binghamton is in the southern tier of New York State, right north
Represent.
of the Peach Border. Yeah, represent. I did a documentary on that. It was 25 minutes long. It was one of the most stressful endeavors just because of like trying to meet a deadline is always tough because you always want everything to be, perfect. And something working in like an industry like this, and when you're editing something by yourself and you have to watch the same clips that you're editing like 6 or 7 times over the course of like 2 months, you get sick of it and you're like, is this even good anymore? Like it was one of those things where it's like by the
Yeah.
time I was done with it, I was like, is this even good? Like I don't even know. I was good. I mean, I thought it was amazing. Watching it, I really enjoyed it and I thought it was great. And the people who we covered, the people on the teams, the people who remember those teams from the 1980s, all really enjoyed it, which was super cool. But it was one of those things where when I finished it and it aired, like it was airing on our network, on our station, and I walked into the control room, which is where they play everything for, to go to go
Mhm.
to air. I went in there and like all my coworkers were in there and they're all watching it. And I sort of was just like, I can't stand here and watch this with them right now. I was sort of just like, I need to go. You know what I mean? It was a kind of anticlimactic in a way where like it was probably a career high for me in terms of quality and certainly in quantity in 25 minutes. But it was just sort of like, I don't know what to do with myself. You know what I mean? It was sort of just like, just kind of like I got home from work last night and my roommate was like, what are you going to do to celebrate? And I was like, I don't know. I watched Love is Blind and
Mhm.
played like MLB The Show. Like I just sort of was like, it was kind of a weird moment where it's like, I don't know what to do with myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Where I feel like there's a lot of things kind of bringing it to a bigger life perspective. I've
Mm,
been thinking about this a lot lately, where so much in life is about the anticipation of something rather than the actual experience and it happening.
yeah.
Like going on vacation the week leading up to it, thinking about the vacation sometimes is even more exciting and more enjoyable than actually being on the vacation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
So sometimes
it's
it's like the big lead up, and then
mhm,
not that that should take away from
for sure.
a big accomplishment or something like that, but it's kind of weird how that works.
Yeah, I agree. It was weird because like the night before it aired, so Sunday night, right? Actually, when we were on our way back from watching Dune, I dropped my buddy off, whatever, and I was driving back to my apartment. And I was having like, dude, I was having like a panic attack. Like I was freaking out because I was sort of just like, what if it's bad? Like I was sort of just, what if this is not good? What if this is horrible? What if people hate it? What if my boss is like, Ian, what the hell are you doing? Why did you make this? Like I was so many things running through my mind. And then once it aired, and my boss was like, she texted me and she was like, oh my goodness, this is whatever, this is great. This is amazing. Congratulations, whatever. And like I was getting texts from people who watched it, who liked it. But it was like, it wasn't like a sigh of relief. Like it was sort of a, I just like the panic continued, the panic just stayed there because it was, I don't know what it was. And I think you're right. I think it is sort of like that anticipation of, in an opposite way, right? You said the anticipation of a vacation. Obviously, you're excited, you're super
Yeah,
crazy. The anticipation for this was like it was like I was excited for people to see it, but I was also nervous. Like it was very nerve wracking, and I think I played up the nerves to myself. It's just kind of self talk, right? Playing the nerves up to yourself. Thinking, overthinking, and thinking too
mm,
much, and like it just got to a point where like it there was no need for me to do that, but then it was like I'm still in that mode of the
yeah,
anxiety of it, you know what I mean? So it's sort of like no, I mean, almost a full day later, I'm just kind of sitting here and I'm chill, I'm sitting pretty, and I'm super happy with the project. And I think that's the
awesome.
big thing. Is like if I didn't like it, then I'd probably still be anxious and nervous, but because it's out and because it was really good and because, as I said, like it is a career high for me in a lot of ways. um I don't know. It's just nice. I think maybe also because it was a Monday, it didn't help. Like I still have to work the rest of the week. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
if I had like today off, I'd probably feel a little different as well.
fair. Yeah, that's definitely a big career moment. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was
So you
cool.
got, do you know the next big project you're working on in terms of something like that? Do you kind of have like a lull in work now? Like, how does that work?
So work, my day to day is covering like local sports. I like, I mean, Tim knows that.
Yeah,
So it's like, a lot of high school sports. Spring sports start next week. I think lacrosse starts on Monday. So, or maybe it's Saturday. I don't really remember. But either way, we have, so there's sort of a lull until then. I have a couple things set up. So it's like kind of back to day-to-day stuff. That was like I was working like, you know, I worked all day Saturday, worked all day Sunday, and those are my 2 days off. So like I was working on my days off to get this done. I was working like an insane amount of hours to finish this. So now I'm just okay with like going back to, okay, I'm going to work 40 hours and give myself a little bit of a quote unquote break, even though, I'm still working. So
yeah,
the next big project, I probably will do another. I mean, I'm definitely going to do another one. Like this is my second long-term, long-form documentary. The first one came out a year ago. So this is my second of the two. And I think this was, the better of the two. But I'll do another one, and I don't want to make it a week, a once a year thing. I want this to be, what I do for my life. Um, but yeah, I think for now I'm just gonna give myself a little bit of a, chill for like a month. I don't know, because I'm still working, and also my girlfriend, she, when you're working on a project like this, you don't have a lot of free time, and
yeah.
you want to be able to at least see the people you love and kind of just you know, give yourself a moment to chill. So I'll probably just chill for a little bit in terms of bigger projects and then hop back into one in a month or two and keep grinding.
Gotcha. So when you say like this is what I want to do for a living, what does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple avenues for it. I work in local news now for people who don't know, but the whole like with local news, you're taking a story and you're consolidating it to a minute to 90 seconds. Like you're making it short and you want to get the points out across and you want to tell people, hey, why should you care about this thing? That's like the point of local news. That's the beat of local news. And I cover a lot of, I do sports, so a lot of my stuff is highlights based.
Yeah.
My point here is saying that long form pieces, even 25 minutes, which really isn't like super long, that's not really what local news is for.
Sure.
But there is I mean, again, I've made two long form documentaries for the local news and it's worked. So there is an avenue in local news for that. But you know, I think in this day and age, though, it's pretty common to see people on YouTube do this stuff. Like,
Mhm.
not exactly, I think having an actual steady job, where you have resources and an audience, I think that's big too, is that you have people
Yeah.
who are going to watch, and they'll see, and that's a big thing. But yeah, people do it on YouTube. I mean, people we see it on YouTube now. I mean, John Boyce he's like the number one reason why I got into wanting to do documentaries and things like that. You mentioned Jimmy High Roller earlier, like guys like them, like they do it. Again, they don't interview people, but they do make great story, driven pieces, sports story driven pieces. And then the other avenue is, I mean, you have documentaries that air on networks, on streaming services, Netflix, 30 for 30, still exists. So there is the avenue, the old way, which is sort of like, which sounds stupid because it's on streaming services now and saying old way, but like, you know, actually having like a documentary, production crew and you know, having it air at a time and then you can watch it later, like on Max and things like that. So there's that, but then there's always the aspect of, okay, well, people are doing it for themselves on YouTube. They're two different things, but they both sort of kind of, for me at least, they both kind of scratch that itch, if that makes sense. So
Hmm.
those are two of the avenues, or continuing to do local news, whatever way it may be. But for me, it's just like this is the stuff, like working on it. As I said, there was a lot of anxiety towards the end of it, but the first couple months working on it, it was like, oh, this is amazing. Oh, this is so much fun, and it
Like you
still
really
is.
found what you want to do.
Yeah, like it's what I want to do, and I know that. But it was just that anticipation of like, okay, I haven't slept in days. Okay, I've had 8 coffees today. Why is my, what I mean? It's just like my heart's beating a million miles a minute. So it's
Sure.
sort of like, yeah, well, we'll see where it takes me. But working on this stuff, I even had a moment yesterday after it aired where I was like, what if this is the last big thing I do? And I was like, wait, that's a stupid thing to say. I'm 22. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I can't be thinking that way. Like this is just in my mind, like this, I hope and I think this is just sort of the beginning. So yeah, and there's a couple ways to go. We'll see where
So correct me if this isn't what I'm hearing. If you could um live life on like Minecraft creative mode, the dream would be you're a YouTuber making sports documentaries and you make your living off of that because that's what you found that you really love.
yeah. I mean, whether it's YouTube or working for a production company, helping produce them, or
Sure.
freelancing, like anything, as long as I'm working in that field, then yes. Like even working in local news, again, I say you are documenting things, or just shorter form, and it does scratch that itch to an extent. You know what I mean? Like I do love my job, so like,
Mhm.
but yeah, creative Minecraft creative mode, working at either working for myself or working for someone else, doing working for the working to create those longer form documentaries. Yeah.
So when are you starting your YouTube channel?
So, well, I have a YouTube channel that is basically just clips of me from the local news. So
Right.
if you guys are super into the local news in Binghamton, New York, hit me up, hit up my YouTube. I think it's just titled Ian Mills. I could be wrong. But yeah, that is something. That's another thing. Actually, I was talking with other people. Was I was working so much the last couple months to get this piece out, and it aired on my station, and it's on my station's website, and my head was just like, what? Like this was a lot of extra work that in theory I did do it for myself, obviously, like what I mean, like but it showed, it aired on something, on not on my network, right, like not on my YouTube. So it was like, going forward, if I want to do another one of these big form, longer form pieces, it might be smarter to have that energy, produced in a way that would sort of just have only my name on it, only air on my
Yeah.
thing, doing something for myself rather than doing
Did
it
you
for
post the doc on your YouTube too?
no,
Are you
no.
allowed to?
At a certain point, I will be allowed to, as far as I know, but it has to. There's like a I don't know what the actual rules are, but there's a certain amount of period of time. So it will eventually, as far as I know, it will eventually get there. But I've posted clips. I have posted clips on it on my YouTube.
Gotcha.
Um,
So do
like
you
this
feel like
I
you
posted
don't
on
have
Instagram.
enough time to work your current job and, be producing things for yourself?
Right now, yeah. But I mean, that's the thing too, is that this project is taking it was so much extra hours that it was like, um, it was sort of like I, if I want to do this, like it'd be a little really helpful if I was doing it as like my full-time job and not just something extra I do for my job.
Right.
So I do think, yeah, I think a lot of it was okay, if I want to make content on YouTube, which is totally cool, it's totally valid, it's going to just be like another full-time job, which is what this project was. So it's sort of like, well, if I'm going to, do this, if I'm going to take this time, I might as well make it for myself going forward. But that's you teach your own. But yeah, I do think it's super time consuming. Um, but I mean, that's everyone has to deal with that, right? If you want to make content for yourself, like you're not going to be making money off the bat from it. So
Right. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I make short form content on TikTok and Instagram, which are kind of a weird uh niche. I do like health and fitness stuff and then also sports analysis, I'd call it. Um and it's pretty easy for me to make right now, because it's short form, like I could probably always do that. But um how I would describe my life right now is kind of like in between careers. I started off out of college working in a gym, literally just graduated last year, but working in a gym, thought my ultimate goal was to own my own gym, ultimately figured out that I really like health and fitness, but I don't want to necessarily make it my job. I had my own kind of business doing online fitness coaching for a little bit, but overall figured out that that's not what I wanted to make my job. So I kind of went back to what I originally set out to do, which is to work in the front office of an NFL team. That's been my dream for a long time. So I'm in the process of kind of switching over to that, reaching out to as many people as I can, still working as a trainer right now, and doing some other stuff to make money, but um I've continued to make my content. I post short form stuff every day at this point. Honestly, just because I really like it at this point. I'm not trying to make it would be very cool if it turned into a career. But my mindset on it right now is let that come if it naturally comes. But right now I enjoy doing it so much that if nothing ever came from it, I would still do it just because I enjoy it. But I'm kind of thinking like, so right now I have a good amount of free time to do that. Am I gonna be as passionate about it if I'm working, 40, 50 hours a week as opposed to what I'm doing now where I have more free time? Who knows? I don't know what it's gonna turn into. But I don't think that's a reason to stop.
yeah. Did
Um,
did you feel like making like health and fitness your job, like working at a gym? Did you feel like that hurt? Maybe not hurt your passion for it, but like kind of took some of the love out of it, like making it a job and kind of, as we said, like we do with the former with our old brand of the podcast, where it was like it felt like you had to do it, felt like your job. Did you feel
yeah,
like working at a gym made you feel that way?
definitely. So kind of what it came down to is I fell in love with health and fitness in college, and that's kind of what made me change and go down that path. Um, and then I wanted to start a coaching business online, and that kind of changed my content from just posting videos that I thought were interesting or whatever I wanted to talk about to how does this video get me more traction to get more clients.
Right.
And all of a sudden, my biggest passion was working out, health and fitness stuff. So it was the first thing I thought of when I got up in the morning. It was what I did all day at work. And then when I came home from work, I was making content about it to try and get more clients. And then, it's the last thing I think about before I go to bed. So my entire day was just consumed with it.
Yeah.
And what I ultimately figured out is it's always going to be a big part of my life and it's a big passion I have, but I enjoy it a lot more as bad as this may sound, when it's kind of just for me
Yeah.
and how it helps me with my life, rather than kind of trying to not force it on other people, but change the way other people do things. Or I don't know. I just started posting things for other people rather than what I was just interested in. And
Right.
then once I ultimately decided I didn't want to do that anymore and I was changing over kind of career paths, I was like, I still enjoy posting content, so I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm just going to post whatever the heck I want to talk about. So sometimes I post fitness stuff, and lately I've been posting a lot more sports analysis stuff, which has actually gotten a lot more traction than the fitness stuff as of lately. So I've been really enjoying doing that.
Yeah, that's cool. Was there like a moment in time that you realized you wanted to make the career switch, or was it like a gradual process, or was it like, okay, this like something happened, and you're like, all right, this is why I need to do this?
So I was working in a gym that I really liked working at. The people were great. I would say it wasn't exactly the type of gym I wanted to work in, but I really liked the people there, and it was a great spot to start. And I thought it was great, and that it would really help me on like my path of wanting to own my own gym and things like that. And I did that for like 6 months, something like that. And I kind of over time kind of realized that maybe this isn't exactly what I want to do, and it just didn't work out there. So then I worked at an LA Fitness. Um And that's where I was like, yeah, that's the last straw. I'm done. That was
Sure.
like a bad experience working there. I lasted like a week, and I was in the sales program for selling people personal training packages. And I just did not like the way they did business at all, and really did not like it. And I was like, that's the last straw. In the back of my mind, the sports stuff has always been there because it's been my
Right.
dream to work in an NFL front office since I was like 10 years old. So
Yeah.
that was always back there. And I was like, oh, what if I had stayed on that path? What if I had stayed on that path? And then kind of one thing led to another. And so it was kind of gradual. But then the LA Fitness thing was like the last final like stamp. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. It was really good for me because I figured it out, and I figured it out relatively quick that it's not what I wanted to make my living about. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
remember. No, that's fair. I remember, yeah, because I remember like obviously so for those who don't know, Tim and I went to high school together and kind of grew up since what, seventh grade? We've known each other since seventh grade. Yeah.
Mhm.
So pretty much that entire time, yeah, it was like you always were very like we used to play Madden all the time together, and it was like, but it was like not to play Madden, it was to build a team in Madden, to be like front office people in Madden. So even when we were, in college and you started working on kind of the personal fitness stuff, whether it was content or working at the gym, it always was like, oh yeah, Tim was always the front office. Like Tim, like I remember we had an English class, I want to say junior or senior year,
Oh, Mr. Shuda.
Mr. Shoota's class. I don't remember was that senior year. I think it was senior year.
I think it was.
We had to do a how like like it was a speech like basically like our assignment was to give a speech and to show someone how to do something. Like you have to teach someone how to do something in a speech. I was working at a car wash at the time. I did how to sell to people because I was a salesman, a really good salesman for Delta Sonic. But really good. I don't know. But my point is Tim, you did like a mock draft. Like Tim's was like a mock draft of like
I don't know how that falls into the how to do something.
I don't remember either. I think it wasn't you didn't have to teach someone, but
I
it
think
was
I just
like
asked him, and I just bent the rules because I wanted to do it.
yeah, yeah. And you did a mock draft. I forget what I mean, it was we graduated in 2019, so it would have been, that 2019 draft class. But
Oh, I'm trying
was
to remember.
who was the year after Josh Allen? Was that Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins year?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Yeah, so that was what it was. And I remember, yeah, like all throughout high school and then even through college, it was like, oh, Tim's gonna work in whatever, the NFL or front office somewhere. So it was always a little a surprise that you kind of took the turn to hit fitness, which
A
is
big switch.
yeah, it's not a bad thing though. I mean, just to learn new things and do new things.
Yeah,
But it is good.
I think it
It's
was
good.
overall really good for me.
Yeah.
Um, Fitness has just done a lot for me in terms of um health, but the biggest thing mentally was a lot more self-confidence, and it helped me grow up a lot, I think, and be more confident in myself. And it was also great that I took the chance to go work in it and figure that out. That's not exactly what I want to do. So now
Mhm.
I can always have that, like, for the rest of my life. There's no, oh, what if I had done that and started my own gym and blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah. There is
And I
something
always
very
say, was that?
I was gonna say, there is something very freeing, especially at a young age, to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life, even if you don't do it for the rest of your life. Like knowing, like, okay, this is the thing I want. This is the purpose I have. Like this is what I want to do, and knowing that is like, I remember, like, growing up in high school, for anyone, like a kid going into college, it's always like, okay, I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life, and I have to decide at the year of 18.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people who never really figure out what they want to do. But once you do, it is a very, very freeing thing to be like, this is what I'm good at, and this is what I like to do, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. What I was saying, what helped me kind of get to that spot, um, well, what I always say is I the person I was when I first really got into fitness, if I had just stayed on the path I was before trying to work in the NFL, I don't think I would have, advocated it because it's a tough field to be successful in. I don't think I would have worked hard enough and advocated for myself and had enough confidence to get to where I ultimately want to go if I was that person all the way through. But going on that, getting into that passion of fitness and the person I became because of it, I think I'm on a much better trajectory where if I was able to get in now, I would be a lot more successful. And honestly, in any area that I choose to go down.
Yeah.
Um, but that is a very kind of interesting thing you bring up, that you kind of have to decide to make a major life decision for what you want to do for the next 50 years. And that's the
Yeah.
way it feels when you're 18. And I think bouncing around and figuring out what you really like to do is the way to go, because I think the vast majority of people kind of just randomly pick something and then start doing it and never take the time to stop and be like, okay, do I really like this? Would I like something else more? And
Yeah.
I think so many people just kind of get caught in the current and just let life take them wherever.
Yeah. I agree. I also think there is, like, you know, there is something to be said about working a job that, you might not be super passionate about, but it does give you a comfortable lifestyle. Like,
Yeah.
especially, you know what I mean? Like, working, my brother, he works as like a in UPS, and he makes a good amount of money. He has no issue with it. It's just sort of like, all right, he goes to work, he, does a great job at work, comes home, and he's able to afford his lifestyle. And I think, like, that's totally valid for a lot of people. And I think especially in this day and age when there is sort of this, you know, this push, like any kid at any age, if you ask him, what do you want to be when you grow up, it's going to be like, oh, I want to be an athlete. Oh, I want to make, I want to be an actor. I want to do this, that, and the other thing. And obviously that doesn't work out for 99.9% of people, but people change. And I think, yeah, once you grow up, you kind of do realize, yeah, all right, I'm okay with just having a good free time. Like, I'm okay with valuing and taking that
That's
the
fair.
8 hours of free time I have. So I go back and forth with it, but right now I am like, yeah, like, I know what I want to do, and it is super cool that I know what I want to do and that I am doing it, and I want to make that my life. Like, I want to make this my life. But I also understand, like, yeah, man, if I was just working in, like, sales right now, like, if I continued in sales, or my degrees in marketing, if I was doing marketing and I worked 40 hours, hard 40 hours a week, and didn't work 70 hours a week, and worked 7 days a week, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'd probably be okay with that. I could understand, like wanting to just, okay, chill. I have making money, and actually have free time to do things. So I do see both sides of it for sure. For especially, for where you grow up and how you grow up definitely
Mhm.
helps dictate that too.
No, that's definitely fair. I've actually been kind of coming around more to that idea because I've always very much been on the side of, like, you should try and find something that you're really passionate about and then work your absolute hardest there. But that level of security, if that allows you to feel good and accomplished throughout the day, working hard at something, and then be able to work on something that you're passionate about on the side. Like
Yeah.
the way I kind of think about it, if I had like a, let's say, boring 9 to 5 job, but then it allowed me to, keep making the content that I enjoy making, like I would find that enjoyable as well,
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
rather than, I have to be a GM one day and work
Right.
as hard as possible for the next 40 years.
Yeah.
But I see the benefits to both as well, is what I'm getting at.
I agree. And I think it also matters where you're at in your life. I mean, we're 22. Like, right, we have
Yeah.
the you're 23, but I'm 22 and like we still have time. But my point is though, is that like, yeah, like especially in the industry I'm in where our jobs are basically 2 to midnight, we're working 2 p.m. to midnight pretty much every day. Like if you're working that, it's impossible to have a family, man. Like it's impossible to have kids if you're doing that. So there's so many people around the age of 30, they leave this industry because like, well, I have kids, I'm getting married, I want to spend time, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
once you grow up, once you realize, oh man, I want a family, or you know what, I want to see my wife, or I want to see my kids, like you're okay with being comfortable because you have other things to live for.
Right.
But I can see both sides of it for sure. Um, but yeah, I feel like we should probably wrap up.
Yeah, I'm good with that. One question I want to have, actually, before we finish, is kind of on the same kind of topic we've been
Sure.
talking about a little bit. What is one thing, like people always talk about a bucket list,
Okay.
but what's like a bucket list life goal you have? So not
Like,
necessarily like I want to go skydiving,
right.
like I want to accomplish this one thing.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I'll
No,
start and give you a minute.
yeah, you go.
One thing that I've been thinking about as of lately, I just started running a little bit. Nothing crazy. Normally
Mhm.
like 3 to 4 miles, maybe 5, 6 times a week. And I've actually started to really enjoy it. And I want to, on my bucket list of life goals, one thing, I want to run a marathon. I want to do that at some point.
Yeah, okay. I like that. I've definitely, dude, I've tried running is so hard. Running is so hard for me. I definitely want to get
I'm not a
back.
runner for sure.
Yeah, I definitely want to get back in shape a little bit more. But I think for me, I don't know, life goal, something I want to do.
It can be anything. It could be career
I
related. It could be family related. It could
I think
be fitness related.
I think like something I've thought a lot lately. Maybe because I'm like I know a lot of people who are getting engaged right now, which is especially at our age is kind of crazy because
Yeah.
we're 20, 23. I'm the best man in a wedding come August. Fun fact
Oh
about me.
wow, let's go.
Yeah.
For who?
Ben Hints.
Oh, you're his best man. I didn't know that.
I'm the best man. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
sick.
He came here in August. So just yeah. I was pretty hyped when he asked me. Um I'd say yeah, I want to have kids, man. I think about that pretty often where it's like I want to have kids and I don't want to just have kids. I want to have a really good relationship,
Yeah,
with my
too.
kids and like I work, working in local sports and you interact with a lot of kids like just in terms of covering the shorts, but you talk to the parents too. Like you have conversations with the parents too. Like your relationship is more with the parents than it is with anyone else. And
Mhm.
hearing some of the stories these parents, I mean, just like how proud they seem of sometimes of like a kid who might like play 5 minutes a game. You know what I mean? Like there's and then there's a bunch of kids who are studs and their parents are just as proud. And it's just like it's super, nice to hear that like because it's not something they're saying in front of their kids. It's they pull me aside like, hey, thanks so much for this, for covering for having said, whoever's name on the broadcast, she's worked so hard, he's worked so hard to get to this moment. You don't know how much it means, yada yada yada. And it's like I think about that, and maybe it's just like because I'm kind of exposed to it a little bit. Yeah, that's something I've only thought a lot about lately.
That's really cool.
Maybe not in the next couple of years, but certainly, it's
Yeah,
something that I think will um dictate my life. I mean, of course it will. Like it'll dictate anyone's life having kids, but it's something I want to be like the
yeah.
center of my
Like
life.
a really good relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. I think that would be cool to be a question that we ask whenever we have guests.
Yeah, I agree. I
Like
agree.
that's our
So
recurring question to people.
I like that.
And like maybe we can even answer again when we have guests, because obviously we're gonna have multiple and they're gonna change.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Most
So
definitely.
in review, I really liked that
Yeah,
this podcast,
too.
and
I
it
did too.
seemed like it just flew by.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a lot easier. Also, we just got to catch up. That was nice.
Yep, that was
Um,
good.
yeah, I think this is a lot, not just more fun for us, but I think it's also easier to listen to than what we were previously putting out, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, that's it was like, to be honest too, I feel like this is going to be easier for us and more enjoyable, but we're also trying a little bit too hard to act like experts on something that we weren't really
Yes.
experts on.
Yes. Oh, 1000%, dude.
Yeah,
1000%.
which I think is some good self-reflection from us. I'm
Definitely.
trying to become more of an expert,
Yeah.
but in that field, but I think this is just going to work way better.
Yeah.
And for
I
next
agree.
episode, we could even film this week if you are free. Mike keeps texting me because he wants to be on.
Yeah. Cool with that. Yeah, just let me know. We can figure that out, figure out a time and place, or not place, obviously, but a time.
Yeah,
Um, whether this week or next week, early next week, whatever you guys want to do, I'm cool with that.
cool. I think he's going to have some strong opinions on things because he tends to. So I think it would be good.
Yeah, he does. He really does. All right.
Just
Well,
in,
thank you much for watching, guys. We appreciate this. We're gonna try to make this a weekly thing.
yeah.
Uh, for the time being, posting it on YouTube. We'll post clips maybe on TikTok and Instagram and things like that.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
the expert editor now, so
yeah, I guess I am. If you send me the file, I can conjure up some clips. But and then we can post the audio on Spotify, Apple, mayhaps. So yeah, we appreciate you guys watching. We'll do this a weekly thing. So we appreciate everyone listening.
yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys. Peace out.
See you. It was like what, 45 minutes?
Did it work? Oh, that's my video. Still recording.